got into this, I think like most people did, not really expecting to end up on a stage talking to you about running for chairman of Maricopa County. I think that one of the things over time has become very clear to every single one of us is that Maricopa County is changing. It's changing right before our eyes. And it's frightening what's going to happen to our children and to their future. And so that's what really got me into politics to begin with. I saw what was happening in 2020 and I thought, you know, they're going to burn down all these buildings. You know, we're putting up plyboard in case the Democrats started breaking glass windows all over Washington, D.C. And I thought, this is terrible. This is not a way to behave in America. And I felt like they were going to do anything they could to stop President Trump from winning in 2020. So I got to do something. And I felt that I could be a poll observer. So I got in contact with my LD. I didn't know it was an LD at the time. And they sent me up to Cave Creek, which is as red gets. I think it's like a 90% Republican voter registration. So I go up to Cave Creek, and I live in North Scottsdale, so I think that's really far. And I meet my Democrat counterpart, and I say, hi, my name is Jan. I'm from DC Ranch. I'm surprised they sent me all the way up here. What part of the valley are you from? And she says, hi, my name is Sally. I'm not from here. I'm from California. I took a week's vacation to turn Arizona blue. That was my first political experience. Meeting someone who was so fully and truly convicted that she took a week's vacation. She was sleeping on her friend's couch. Now, people will say that George Soros is paying these people. I don't care. Let me ask you this. Could George Soros pay you $15 an hour to take a week's vacation to go to New Mexico and tell those people how to live their lives? Never. Never. We're taking a week's vacation. We're going to Cabo. We're not going to New Mexico and bossing other people around, right?
I know the college students are getting paid at least $25 an hour.
Wow.
The price has gone up, for sure. It has. We have the benefit now that we passed a law that says you can no longer be a poll observer if you are from out of state. So that doesn't happen in 22. But for me, it was a very eye-opening experience. What it said to me is that there is a group of people who is extremely dedicated. They are focused. They are focused on something that we're not. We take our Republican majority for granted. We expect it to continue, and we're busy. We're working. We're raising our families. We're running our businesses. We don't think that we need to focus on these things, especially at my age. And in the end, what's happening is we're getting taken advantage of. So that's how I got politically motivated and politically involved. And the more you get into it, the more you find out. And my goodness, have we been finding out a lot of really bad stuff. I'm an attorney. I'm a lawyer, a wife, a mom. And I was working with the RNC in the war room on election day. And they asked me to come in at 5:30. There were 30 of us lawyers in the room. And I thought, well, 5:30, the polls don't open that early. You know, what are we going to be doing? And but okay. And so we go in, and they said, they trained us in advance, and they said, you should expect calls like, I don't want to use the pen they gave me. Can I use my own pen? We were told to expect things like, they won't give me the provisional ballot I need. How do I get the proper provisional ballot? And a lot of us lawyers were talking to each other, chatting, saying, you know, it feels like there's bigger issues here. Why aren't we getting trained on some of these bigger issues? And if we need 30 lawyers, you're probably going to expect a lot of stuff going on. But the RNC, you know, they proceeded with their training. I thought it was relatively inaccurate, and then we got hit by a 20-ton truck on election day. We started getting calls at 5:45. The tabulators aren't working. The tabulators aren't working. We don't know what to do. The tabulators aren't working. Now, we all know it wasn't the tabulators. It was the printers. But it took hours. It took hours. I had a gentleman call me, and he said, I'm in Gilbert. I'm in Gilbert, and I'm calling because my mom is over in Chandler, and there are so many ballots that they're putting them on the tabletop, and she is uncomfortable leaving her ballot on the tabletop. So can she walk out with her ballot and turn it into another location? I didn't know the answer to that question at the time. And so I went to the RNC supervisory lawyer who had gotten advice from Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, and the legal advice that we received from them at that time was yes.
Oh. Well, we have a lot of stories here in this area.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So I told this gentleman, yes, you can tell your mom to leave and she can turn in her ballot in another location, because that was the legal advice that we got from the Board of Supervisors.
Crap.
It was shocking, right? We found out an hour later, reverse, not the correct advice. By then, multiple people had given out the wrong advice. And it was just an absolute disaster. It became very clear to me through that experience that Maricopa County is the highest profile county in the United States.
Yes.
We're the second largest voting county in the United States, and we are an unmitigated disaster. How in the world are we allowing this to happen? So I need to dig in. I need to investigate. I need to figure out why. Because if we don't do anything different, we're just going to keep getting what we got, right? So we all know that we have to fight on the election integrity level. There is no doubt that we have to fight. So I'm going to set that part aside because I think that's a piece of it. But there's an underlying undercurrent that I found when I started digging in, which is that we are not treating this like it's a serious problem. The Democrats in Maricopa County have an office. They have paid staff. We are a volunteer group who have jobs. We cannot do the same volume of work as people who are paid all day long, every day to do that, which the Democrats prove to us because they pay people all the time, right? We don't have an office. We don't have a place to meet. We don't have a professional door that we can invite donors into. We just don't have a basic fundamental level of professionalism. We don't have a social media plan. We don't have a communication plan. We don't, a monthly newsletter and an occasional retweet on Twitter is not communication with our people. So I think, well, maybe that's just Democrats. The Democrats, they have more money than we do. So of course they have an office. Of course they have staff. So let's look at comparable sized counties. Well, Houston is a comparable sized county. The Republican office has 10 paid staff. And they are bright red. I think there's a correlation, don't you? Absolutely. So we need to treat Maricopa County like it's serious. And we need to go from the year 2000 to the year 2024. And we need to understand that we have to have some of this basic, fundamental infrastructure so that we can work and we can deliver to the county. For example, if we were to give a training to a PC today, we'd cobble together a PowerPoint. We'd grab someone who's done one as a PC captain, and we would say, we know that there's a PC handbook, we'll get you that. We've got pieces of it. If we had paid staff, someone would have already have 10 different PowerPoints in their pocket. They'd have a PC handbook. They'd be giving all the materials to the individuals that would already be there, right? We'd already be 10 steps ahead. We don't have that basic infrastructure today. That's part of why we're losing. It's part of it. And you know what? We have big donors. We have 11 billionaires in the state of Arizona. We have plenty of big donors. We don't need $20 from each of you to do this. We have big donors who have offices who would donate office space to us, who would give us office staff. There's no reason why we can't do some of these things other than we just haven't done them, and we just don't know that we can. But we can, and we will. So we're going to develop a very basic infrastructure. This is not something that I would normally give in a 5-minute stump speech, but I think with the longer period of time that we have to talk about it today, it's important that we lay the foundation. Another area of foundation that we is glaring is that we have 20 legislative districts in the state, in the Maricopa County, and 12 of these chairs are brand new.
Oh, that's not a bad thing. It's just, I'm not saying it is.
Exactly.
But it depends on who's chair. It depends on who's chair.
Well, you could think going into 2024.
We like Andrew though.
We do.
We love
do.
Andrew.
This is not
It's
an
nothing to
attack
do
on
with
Andrew.
that.
This is
It's
not.
nothing to do with that.
Technically senior.
He's not one of the new ones.
It's not.
No, we have we have 18 chairs who have 2 years of experience or less. So that means we have 6 chairs like Andrew who are, 6 to 8 months in. And then we have 2 chairs who have more than 2 years of experience. So what we're finding out here is that we have a huge opportunity. These are folks who are excited. They are so excited, they are so passionate about Maricopa County that they have stepped forward into leadership roles. That's going to call down to first vice chair, second vice, treasurer, and secretary. This is something where we can really make a lot of change in Maricopa County. We all talk about how every LD is different. It's a different fiefdom in every LD. We don't share our best practices. We don't talk about the things that we're doing well. Why not? We should be sharing our best practices with our LD chairs, with our first vice chair, with our treasurers, our secretaries. We should be, our second vice chairs, we should be mentoring these folks, bringing them in, and then you know what we get out of that? We get consistency. We get consistent best practices throughout Maricopa County so that then we can get consistent results. So what happened? Andrew, how'd you guys do?
We did good in this district. We focused on getting people involved. We had, I don't know if other districts have this, I asked, I didn't hear, but during the primary and during the general, we had more than 50% of our PCs participate in at least 2 district events. So we did a lot of things, innovated our communication methods. We did things during the primary. We even electioneered during the primary. I don't know if people do that. But we just tried to be innovative. We're trying to do things that work. When I look at the district, it should be like a business.
Yes.
It should be ran like a business. And if the districts are lacking in certain areas, I expect that guidance is going to come from the county.
Yes.
And again, if the county is missing it, then it should come from the easy GOP. That's how
That's right.
business works.
That's right.
So we did very well.
Your story is excellent, and you talked a little bit about it last night at the EGC meeting, and I think other chairs went, oh wow. And you may be a relatively new chair, but you are already establishing yourself in a leadership role within the EGC, because these 12 brand new chairs were going, he did what? He had how? They were very impressed. Your results are not consistent with other LDs. We're going around to all of Maricopa County and we're hearing very inconsistent results.
Yeah.
Recruitment's very different. You said last night you have 200 PCs waiting in the wings.
We have 200 contacts that have either come to one meeting or participated in one event and at some point have expressed interest in becoming PCs. So will all these people become PCs as soon as I can appoint? No. But will we be probably a third of the way away from filling the district once we do get the ones who are in? Yeah.
Yeah.
So really my goal as leader of this district is to just fill the district entirely. And then if I have the highest percentage of precinct committeemen or a full district, I can leverage that to get whatever I want out of the county or state. Mm-hmm. So that's my goal as the leader of this district, is to fill it with quality people.
Right, with high quality people who are out there doing something, right? And that's part of what we need to talk about is door knocking is not for everyone, but that doesn't mean that that person doesn't provide value to our LD and can't be an influencer in some significant way. So we have tremendous opportunity with this leadership, but we need to take advantage of it. We need to gather our resources and immediately harness it and do all of this work in 2023. So we lay the foundation for success in 2024. We cannot start in June of 2024 and expect to win. That's an absolute recipe for failure. So we have to start working. We have to start now. We have to lay our foundation and get our infrastructure set so that we can be successful. We have a lot of very exciting ideas that I'd like the team to talk a bit about each one of them. But we need to address the issue of election integrity. That is going to be the #1 topic that you hear PCs talking about. And it is an absolute disaster here in Maricopa County. We have had no voice on that. You don't hear us talking about it on James T. You don't see us talking about it on Newsmax. They've got strangers talking about Maricopa County on Fox News. You don't hear us writing about it in our newsletter, asking you to send emails to your legislators, supporting this or that bill. There is an absolute dearth of communication from us. And so we need to take accountability for that, and we need to start stepping forward. So what we're going to do is create a robust election integrity committee. Well, we have to get our best minds together, working on election integrity, focusing on a couple of different things. We have to address legislation. Now, if Katie Hobbs is our governor, we know that she's not going to sign election bills. Alex Colladin has endorsed my campaign. He's the vice chair for the elections committee. So we will be working very closely with the elections committee. He has some ideas that he's hopeful that he can get Democrats on board and that Katie may be able to, find palatable and sign, which would be wonderful. But yeah, so I think we should, we obviously want to participate in that. We want to be activists in that. We want to train people to use RTS. We want to, communicate with our legislators. But also, we can't forget that we can refer things to the ballot.
Yes, we can.
We should have gotten a voter ID passed. We should get that on the ballot again.
The McCain rhinos and that little liberal, I'm going to say it right now, but this liberal moment group and Nancy like Amontes, I think they were responsible for killing that, personally, in my opinion. The rhinos were, because they don't want election integrity.
That's tough.
I was surprised it didn't pass. I was shocked.
Yeah. Well, there was early polling that said it was coming out a 50-50 that the Free Enterprise Club did and published. And it was not coming out as strong as we had initially anticipated because 70% of people do support voter ID. So we need to take another pass at that and we need to work on our communications. Frankly, our messaging is not very good. We always get killed. They have a clean, simple message. Republicans want to take away your choice. We need to work on quick, clever messaging, and then that way we're going to get really down to the voters. They're going to understand what we're talking about. Yeah?
I just want to,
Please.
I don't have too much time, so I really wanted to talk to you about this in front of everybody before I had to go. So I don't mean to be selfish, but look, when you're on the topic of election integrity,
Yeah.
I think everybody in this room understands how vital election reform and integrity is in the state. However, our leadership, in my opinion, needs to understand going into this that there are too many I's, too many D's, and now too many R's that do not want to talk about that. When Democrats campaign, they campaign on what people want to talk about, and then when they get in, they legislate exactly how they see fit.
Agreed.
Republicans talk to people about what Republicans want to talk about, and
Yep.
right now, that's not winning.
Yep.
And my point is, it should be easy. With everybody suffering, with the economy the way it is, immigration the way it is, it should be so easy for us. So I'm interested kind of what your thoughts are on that, because some people take the stance that if you're not addressing it publicly and always talking about it, then you're doing people a disservice. What I'm trying to get people to understand is hold your legislators' feet to the fire. Send as many messages as you want. Do all the internal work within your party. The public right now doesn't want to hear about election integrity. Like, I have a dad. I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh. He's always been a Republican. He voted for Biden and he'd vote for him again. Do you know why? Because he doesn't want to hear about election integrity anymore when people are out there suffering.
Wow.
And he doesn't trust candidates that don't focus on issues like what people are actually going through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
No,
just
polling absolutely supports your statement. Polling says the number one issue is the kitchen table issues. It's gas, it's egg prices, it's my rent is going up, are we going into recession? Meat, right? The polling is meat. Life came down into number 6. We thought that was a huge issue, but it was really not the big issue. The issue was the kitchen table issues. And candidates who focused on those kitchen table issues and stayed off of politics did better than those who did not. So 100% correct.
That's true.
Even out when I was running for state senate, I would talk about all these kitchen table issues, and PCs would come up to me and criticize me for it, because in our bubble, that is the number one issue, and it is the number one issue.
right.
But voters are not informed and they're not interested. Everyone cares about themselves,
Right.
and they want to stop paying $6.99 for 12 eggs.
And they don't want to pay $2,000 for rent every month.
Right, and they don't want to go out and buy an EV that's got a range of 100 miles and you have to fill up every other day. And my husband has a Tesla, it's a freaking golf cart. So
I actually like Teslas, even though I don't like
I mean, the sucker's fast, but it's a glorified golf cart. So this is the issues that we're facing, is that we have to balance that. And part part of this is going to be about communicating within the party because we have to unify. As you said, we have 35% Republican registration. We have 35% independent registration. We have 30% Democrat registration. We cannot do this with Republicans alone. And the stat that's very interesting is we all sort of think that the independents lean right, so that means we really have more than 50%. In the primary, of the independents who polled a Republican ballot, only 39% turned it in. Something happened with these people who we think should be right-leaning, and they didn't push it forward for us. Now, some of that is we need to work on our get out the vote plan. We should be contacting, all these folks, texting them, calling them, we need better data, we'll talk about that, and making sure that those ballots get back in. But something happened inside of independents, and they did not attach to our message. So we need to analyze that. We need to do some poll work, and we need to figure it out. Part of it is going to be working with the RNC, the GOP, the county. We have to work together. We have to get a cohesive message, and we have to be a cohesive team. We cannot be running around on top of each other, saying and doing different things, and nobody knows what anybody else is doing. That's just not a functioning way to move forward. But we have to focus on messaging that impacts voters. And then we have to talk among ourselves about, there's a difference between how we communicate internally and how we communicate with the voters. And that may be something that when we're working on unifying everyone is a little uncomfortable. There are people within our party who only want to talk about election integrity. And so we're going to have to show them the polls, and we're going to have to work through that and help them to understand the difference between, the guy at the gas station and those of us who come to meetings a couple times a week.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you. Yeah,
Yes, not my pleasure. So I would like to bring up Eric Morgan. Eric is currently chair of LD 27. He is a veteran chair. He is a wealth of knowledge. He has recruited over 300 PCs in his career. He knows all about PCs. He is the guy who poked and poked and poked and finally got into Runbeck. He is one of two people who was allowed inside of Runbeck. And his report was submitted to the GOP, and I believe it was used. So Eric has a very interesting background. He's passionate about our party. He's passionate about Arizona. And number one, he's passionate about PC. So I'd like Eric to talk about our PC empowerment plans.
Ben, tell those brothers that story about it.
I've recruited hundreds of PCs over my career. I've been doing this since 14 years. I've been doing this. So I got involved. So I'll tell you a little about myself. It's my least favorite topic, so I'll go through it kind of quick. I got started in 2008, and everything that's going on now, even the cheating, they're very similar. It's very similar phenomena. I know we've got a lot of new people that are coming in thinking this is the first time it's ever happened, but we had the Ron Paul revolution going on in 2008. Huge influx of people trying to take over the Republican Party. Now we have the Patriot Party trying to take over the Republican Party or even start a third party. We had the Tea Party form, okay, and I got involved because I started going to some of the Tea Parties, and in 2008 I had a hard time even finding out where my legislative district meeting was. Okay, I had a little bit of knowledge because I worked on campaigns in college and stuff like that. Jeff Sessions actually, he's not so popular now, but he was right before he became a loser. I worked on his campaign, and then I worked on some little local congressional campaigns as well. So I had some experience. So I kind of knew that I had to find whatever we called in Arizona our political unit. So I figured it out. LD, couldn't find out where the meeting was, and finally I figured it out. I drove up to the meeting, and there's nobody. There's no cars in the parking lot. Nothing. And this is after Obama. So the Obama election was 2008 was my watershed. So we all have one, I think. So I get out of the car and I'm looking around, and the place is dark. I'm like, so I guess the website was wrong or whatever, And another car pulls up next to me, and a guy gets out and he's looking like he's going to head somewhere, and he stops. And he does the same thing. He looks around, And I see a light bulb go off in his head, over his head, and he starts to get back in his car. So I stopped him. I said, "You're here for the Republican meeting?" He's like, "Yeah, they changed it, changed location." And so I helped him find it and sat through one of the most dysfunctional LD meetings I have ever seen. It was terrible. And I don't have time to go into it tonight, but basically they adjourned the meeting, and then the other side went and had the election in the parking lot, and then there was fighting and all that stuff. So
Wow.
it was amazing. It was amazing. So that was my introduction to the Republican Party. I ended up becoming PC, got drafted because of that nonsense, because I guess, I don't know, I have an honest face or something,
I'm surprised you
to be one of the people, I know, right? They drafted me to be one of the people to sit on the board. I think I was first vice chair all of a sudden. And it took a couple of months for that to happen. They basically put somebody in for first vice chair, then he resigned because he was one of the Ron Paul people, didn't like that we split the slate because he couldn't work with the other people, right? So he resigned, and they recruited me to run for that one. So that was the beginning of the board, okay? So I was a brand new leader all of a sudden too. Shortly after that, they resigned. The chairman there resigned, and I ended up becoming chairman. Okay? So that was LD4, and then we redistricted, so I had to create a whole new district, LD22. Okay, I ran all through LD22, and then we've changed again now, and I'm at LD27. So I've been through 3 districts, and I never once moved.
Yeah, what part of town do you live in?
I live in North Glendale, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, up there, right around where the 101 makes that
Okay.
corner. So I live right in that corner there. So I've been reflecting, because Jan asked me to run, and I was reflecting on why I keep doing this. I mean, why am I such a glutton for this kind of punishment? But I realized what it is I look at the faces of people who came in who didn't have any idea what was going on, just like I was. And I see them progress as I help and empower them, give them things to do, teach them the way to get done, tell them how to be most influential and what politics is all about, and watch them grow and become some of the most influential people in the party. And I see that happen, and I still meet, those people are still involved, because once they have this, and once they have these wins under their belt, they never quit. And I still know all these people, and every time I see them, it reminds me exactly why I started getting into this. And as a result, too, of my becoming chairman, I actually had to run for the next time. So I served out a few months, and then I had to run for chairman. That was the last time I had to run. So I'm a real newbie when it comes to running for for offices in politics. But that to me meant that I was doing the right thing, because nobody was willing to say, this guy sucks, let's get rid of him. They're saying that now.
Who said that? Patriot Party?
Oh yeah, they're saying that now, but there's a few other people that think I should go. So, I want to give like one example of. So first of all, let me talk about what's actually important. If you want to be influential, if you want to be successful in politics, I was jumping the gun there. The whole key is influence. You have to be able to influence people. Okay? You influence the voters to vote your way. You influence your legislators to vote the way you want them to. You influence the board of supervisors.
Well,
yeah. Some people can be influenced, but the name of the game is influence. So how do you have influence? Ask the next question, right? So the way you get influence is, the number one thing is listening, right? You have to listen to who you're trying to influence. Okay? We've forgotten that in this party. Okay? And I'm going to remind people. You have to listen to what they're saying, and then you talk about what they want to talk about. Jan brought it up earlier, and it's exactly what it is. And I think Andrew even said the same thing. So, I mean, you all have a gem here. This early on, having this kind of insight into the party, you're gonna go places if you stick it out.
You better.
And I can tell from the EGC last night, you're not gonna have any problem with these people. So you listen to them, and then you find out where that common ground is. And you work on the things that you have control over. Too often we go after, let's say we want to pass one day, one vote, okay? That's my goal. I want precinct level voting. I want no mail-in ballots except for really valid excuses. And I want the hand counts and have it all done at the precinct level. Okay, that's what I want. If I try to do that right now, it's just not gonna happen. And then I'm gonna be a loser, okay? Every time we go shoot for the moon and we don't achieve it, you just racked up another loss. So if you lose and you lose and you lose and you lose, you're a loser, okay? But if you go in and you look at the things that you have influence over, you have control over, and you win, and then you win, and you win, each one of those wins starts telling other people that you're a winner. And you start getting bigger and bigger and bigger things to work on. Your scope expands. Okay, this is how you grow your influence. And you can't have it overnight. And regardless of what anybody says, you cannot lead from a negative position. Okay, so if your modus operandi is to torch everybody on social media, it just isn't going to work. You're never going to be a leader. Okay? Using these principles, using these ideas, teaching people these things, these principles, and then applying what Andrew obviously has is a keen sense for working on the right things in the right places. I took that dysfunctional district to, I like to say it was the most successful district in the state. And I have plenty of state candidates throughout the years who would come to our district and they'd see 200 people sitting in our district meeting. And they'd be like, wow, this is great. And then I'd tell them what the plan was to get them elected. And they're like, this is the best district in the state. Okay, now, other districts do things different. I don't want to step on all the chairman's toes out there, especially the ones that are doing things right. So I'll say I'm one of the best districts, was. Okay, now 22 just got broken up. I was chairman, I had a first vice, second vice. My first vice chair became chairman of LD 28. My second vice chairman became the chairman of LD 29. Okay, so our philosophy, and they were my most recent board, so they one of them was brand new, so I was helping her. One of them had been around, but I helped him too. And I learned from them as well. So we shared a lot of information, and we took all we learned and spread it out across 3 districts. This is how you grow your influence, okay? And one of the things you don't see, people are looking for me. I mean, some of you probably tried to check me out. I don't have much on my social media because it's just such a toxic place. And there's you get angry, and I just want to flame that person who just said that, right? So it's just not the place to make these arguments. This is where we do it, okay? I'm seeing your faces, and I get the smile when we say something, and we have this connection. That has to happen at our precincts. All of our PCs, our job is to go out, talk to our neighbors, and learn what they want to hear, and then start telling them how Republican principles make that better. Okay? The Democrats, they have to pay everybody to do it. But look, we have volunteers, thousands of volunteers that are doing it for free. Okay? We have that advantage. If we start paying people for it, now we have another advantage. We've eliminated anything that the Democrats have. But this is the way they do it. They work every day, all day of every day of the year in between elections, getting people on their side. And when they're on their side, the elections become a lot easier. So the other thing I'm going to talk about a little bit, election integrity. I know there's an idea out there and I have some friends that I'm working on them. These are friends that are not in politics at all, but they know I am. I'm always bouncing things off of them. One of them is like, I don't even care. I'm not even going to vote because elections are rigged and I'm not going to go. So I haven't quite got him turned around yet, but he actually voted. I did get him to vote, so that was a good thing. If you look at what's been happening over the last, you can go back to 2010, but even more recent than that. Right after 2010, we had Black Lives Matter start, right? And you saw the Democrats just start ratcheting up the vitriol and the rioting and stuff. They had to riot in 2020 to win, right? They had to have paid riots all across the country to win. What does that tell us? That's horrible, that's terrible, but it means that underneath everything, we're winning. We're winning. They are having to go to further and further extremes. Okay. In college, we unrooted voter fraud, cheating in college when I was in college, and I'm not going to say how many decades ago that was, but it was small. Okay, it was a handful of votes and stuff, and that's what we all thought it was. And then in 2016, some people had a hint, but in 2020, we all knew that they had taken it to a new level. Okay, why did they have to do that? Because Trump won. He was going to slaughter her. There was no way Biden could have won. So, again, what does that mean? Look underneath what's going on. That means that we were winning. And we still are winning. Okay? And we need to continue to focus on those things that are making it harder and harder. Eventually, okay, first of all, we have to fix the election integrity problems, okay? We can do this. Okay, we're keenly focused on it now. We are watching. You notice that drop boxes are not a big issue in 2022 this time, right? We saw a few, we saw maybe a handful of people. We had patriots out there watching them the entire time. We said, we see you, and we stopped it, okay? They found another way. You know, they did voter suppression at the polls, okay? Now, we've seen that. How many more of these can they possibly have?
Who knows?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. So we're going to dig in. We're going to find these things. My career gives me the opportunity to, or gives me the training to do some things that we don't do regularly in Maricopa County. Anyway, I'm a physicist. I work for Intel Corporation. I make billion-dollar decisions based on data every single day. I made 4 of them today, and the 4 I kind of added up the dollars today. The 4 decisions that I made today are going to influence Intel in the tens of billions of dollars over the next year or so. Okay, so I know how to use big data. The amount of data that we're using is hundreds of thousands of variables. Okay, so I'm not afraid of what, you know, the income of data we have right now. We can use that as one thing to start to peel out where it is that they're cheating. Okay, we can work with a lot of the organizations that we have out there right now that are doing the same kind of thing. Okay, and we'll start finding their phantom voters. We'll start putting the pressure on them there as well. Okay, if we're constantly hitting them with these people don't exist, why are they still in voter rolls? And we just keep on this. Okay, we will do the same kind of thing that we did for the drop boxes. We may not eliminate it, okay, we won't, none of us will feel good, right? It's not going to be a feel-good situation for the next 2 years. But we will know that we are at least applying the pressures in the right place to slow it down enough so that we can continue this wonderful growth that we've been having in the popular opinion of, or the popular viewpoints of the Republican Party. Okay, underneath, I don't think everybody thinks Republicans are racist. So, yeah.
When Katie Hobbs is governor, what is your contingency plan? Because she won't sign any of that or help with any of that. And I understand what you're saying.
Right.
In fighting that fight. I have an idea, but I want to hear what you have to say about it. What is your contingency plan? So,
Well, a couple of things were already mentioned. One is we've got the ballot initiative thing. We won't get that ballot initiative. So the legislature, we have a majority there, barely. Okay. They will be able to refer things to the ballot, and then the voters can decide. Okay, and it's up to precinct committeemen to get our butts out and get the word out about how good these things are. So we have to. That's the main thing. Okay, my passion is really on the PCs. Okay, and we are the foundation. You can't build this beautiful house if the foundation isn't there, right? And the PCs are the foundation, and those basic activities of being able to communicate with neighbors is important. So we have to build that foundation. Once that's working, and while we're building that, while we're getting better at it, the next thing is we have to keep the pressure on the legislature to actually do these things. Okay, we have a 1-vote majority in both, just like we did last time. We have a more conservative legislature this time, so this is good. But there are still a couple we're keeping our eye on.
David Cook.
Yeah, he's mentioning names for me. So, another thing, you don't see me out there flaming all of these things. Bentoma, for example, right?
Yeah,
okay. I've got questions about Bentoma, right? But
Rusty Bowers endorsed him for
he's a Speaker of the House.
Rusty
okay?
Bowers handpicked him.
Okay, if I piss him off, he doesn't have to talk to me, right?
That's my opinion.
Okay, so whether I'm flaming someone, well, if I'm not flaming someone, doesn't mean that I support them. Okay, and that goes for everybody. Okay, we can say that about every single person anywhere in the party. Another thing that the legislature can do, and this is actually easy, they have the purse strings. Okay, with the majority, they can just say no to any dollars. We don't need a governor, you don't need anything else. They just say no. Okay, but what does that require? Okay, I'm going to tie this back. That requires that they have courage. Right? Because the news is going to rip them, Katie's going to rip them, everybody's going to rip them. So where are they going to get that? Where do politicians get their courage? There's a handful. There's so few people that have that innate courage that they can just stand and just take it, right?
Like our congressman here, Andy Biggs.
Yes, he's one. Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
taking a lot of heat right now.
Yep, he is. He is. The courage comes from voters. Andrew said it. Okay, I'm loving this guy. That comes from the voters. And who has the most influence over voters of anybody in the entire world? Precinct committeemen in their precinct. You have the most. And I do this everywhere I talk. You knock on the door, and it goes, and you see one little eyeball peeking out at you, right? Just one little eyeball. Now, if you're a solar salesman, I'll say solar salesman. If there's any solar salesman, sorry, but the door just kind of sits there. But if you say, hi, I'm your neighbor, what happens? Boom. Now, if you're smart and you listen to what they're talking about, then that relationship starts to build, and you build that trust. And you just do this, repeat, one over and over and over again. And once you've got this model down and you're doing this, now you control those votes because they're going to listen to you. It's not a question. This isn't a theory. This works. I could prove it 1,000 times over. The hundreds of phone calls I get. Who do I vote for? And you all know this as PCs. You all get them, right? You know it works. This is what we have to do. You walk into a legislator's office and you say, I've got 1,000 voters, and they want me to tell you no on this bill, on this funding bill. They want you to focus on getting this other thing done and to say no until you get it. You do that, they start to have courage, okay? We do the opposite, remember. We go in there, and when they don't have courage, we rip the heck out of them, okay? And then what do? They do Joel John's thing, just says, screw you, And, I mean, he literally not literally, okay, he almost literally said that, basically.
What was that, the Florida House?
If you read the letter that he gave to the EGC, it was just unbelievable.
I didn't read I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know him actually, but you have to show me the letter. It's interesting.
Yeah. So we are the voters. We give them the courage. So there's two things. And I'm sure there's a lot of other ones. But again, we've got to dig in and find out where they are.
Why not just play within the laws that are on the books right
Right.
now? Because
Yeah, so that's the other side of it. I didn't go into it because it gets kind of dry, but
isn't that easier?
it is. Well, it depends. We have the board of supervisors is the
Well,
problem.
if you're talking about you're driving the PCs to change minds,
Bingo.
why not play within the law?
Yep. So there's a third
We
one.
don't like the law.
Yeah.
See, I think this is the issue we run into. We think it's dirty, we don't like it, so we decide that we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But frankly, nothing's going to change until if Democrats see us playing their game better, guess what they're going to want to do?
Yeah.
Change the law.
Exactly.
Right? So
I've said the same.
why not go that route? Why-
Yeah, that's exactly
And
it.
I'm
So
not
that's the
asking
other
you
one.
because I don't have the answer, but why
Right.
not? That seems to me like an easier road to convince people that we have to play dirty with them. And I'm sorry, this is what it is.
Yep.
To change the law, to gain a majority, a better majority than we have now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So.
And I think that argument will be easier if we are not able to make election reform in '23 and in '24. And then we're faced with a primary and a general election with the same rules that we have today. We're gonna say, it doesn't work to show up on election day. They're gonna sabotage us again. Right, so we're going to, that is an easier argument as we get closer to the election. Right now, our job is to do as much as we can to change the law and to get something on the ballot, to get some reforms, to recall the Board of Supervisors and hopefully get new supervisors for '24 so we can have an impact on that election. So our job is to try to change it as much as we can. And then if we can't make the changes that we need, we have to have a robust get out the vote plan, which goes back to the data. It's a very dry subject, but the fact of the matter is our data is 3 days old. When a candidate sends out texts saying, hey, please vote for me, the data is going to people who may have voted 3 days ago, and you're wasting your time and your money. The Democrats have up to the minute data. We have to fix that. We're wasting our time. We could be sending people out to door knock to say, hey, have you voted yet? And they've already voted. As a matter of fact, that happened to me. I live in LD3, we're in R26, and so LD4 right next to us, we knew Nancy Bartow and Maria Sims were underwater. So I took my family, we go door knocking, and they gave us a list of Republicans, and every Republican door we knocked on, they told us we've already voted. It was a complete waste of time as a door knocker. So we have to have better data so we can execute a real get out the vote plan. It just has to be timely. That's just a fact. And we have the time to get there.
Why
We
do
can
they
do
have
that.
better data?
They pay for it. It's just money. Yeah. It's a lot of money. But you know, I'm developing a good relationship. So Campaign Sidekick is owned by the RNC. We work with the RNC for that. I'm developing a very good relationship with our RNC coordinator. He understands that you know, the data is not where it needs to be. That in 2020, Campaign Sidekick didn't work for us in North Scottsdale. You'd walk outside of your house, and if you weren't connected to Wi-Fi, you couldn't. It died. It couldn't use data. Yeah, it was terrible. So they made the changes for 22. We were able to use it. So I believe that they can update it, but that's one of the things that we're going to need to do is create a technology council. And the technology council is going to work on how do we get better data, how do we get more timely data, how do we determine what is the best tool for us to use. Right now, a lot of people go back and forth between GOP Data Center, because they like the Excel spreadsheets, and Campaign Sidekick. And our friend Matthew back here will tell you, oh my God, that kills my soul. Because when you use the spreadsheet, nobody knows that you already knocked on that door. Or, you know, that you're reporting back, hey, that's a 2-bedroom house, 16 people don't live there. You know. So we need to figure out a tool that we can all get comfortable with that will provide the data that we need to the county and whatnot. So we need to do that. We need to actually create a dashboard. We have no metrics today to determine our success. You know, we're thinking about what is the definition of success. The definition of success is every legal vote getting counted, right? That's a big definition of success right now. But in business, we have metrics that we work with, and we say to ourselves, all right, if I recruit, I need to fill 2,000 PC slots with quality candidates. And so I'm going to set a goal that over the course of the next year, we're going to fill 1,000 slots. We should have a dashboard of how we are doing on that and have that running all the time, right? And we should be reporting on that. We should be talking about it in EGC. We should be talking about it at the LD. And that's part of this, you know, overall coordinated effort that we can have with the voter registration. We have an executive director today who is a data person, but what we should have is a dashboard. So that every LD chair has this dashboard, and it just pops right up, populates for them, and they know exactly what the status is of the county at all times. So we're going to create a technology council so we can get some of these tools going.
But part of the problem with Campaign Sidekick is they can and have taken away permissions to use it on occasion. If we don't know that we're going to have it, there's not a, it doesn't create incentive to rely on it.
Yes, and I think that we have to work with all of PCs and learn what issues did you encounter using Campaign Sidekick. I had a lot of trouble going in and out. I would go to a house, I'd fill out the survey, and it would crash on me. And so I'd be standing at the end of the driveway, and my husband says, where do we go next? I'm like, I don't know, I'm waiting for it to load. So it took twice as long to door knock as it should have. And so I think those are bugs we can figure out, but we need a big list so that we can give the RNC the list so they can fix it. And then we have to, you know, then have the ideas of what is it that we would like to have. One of the things for me is in LD3, we had, and I hate to use my LD over and over, but we had the highest voter turnout of any LD in Maricopa County. And my 2 precincts, we were in the top 25%. So we were, you know, we have crazy high turnout in LD3. And we had a high degree of confidence that our voters were going to vote solid Republican and that we didn't have to worry too much about Blake and Kerry in those areas. So why were we spending a ton of time door knocking in LD3? We should have been door knocking in LD4. We lost Nancy Bartow.
That's not good.
No.
It's not the right
Where are the
thing.
boundaries of
Well, this is the exact same thing. Christine Marsh was an incumbent, you know, and so we should have been door knocking. We should be allocating our resources where they're needed And that's one of the things with Campaign Sidekick was I had to get permission from Maria Sims. She had to create a specific walking list for me. And so I'd like to work more with how can we help BLDs that need the help and allocate those resources properly, Joseph.
So, I know a few AZ GOP candidates have expressed interest in Arizona, AZ GOP creating their own data portal instead of using Campaign Sidekick, because there's a few number of times where RLD has requested data from Campaign Sidekick and the RNC kind of just says, oh, we're not sharing the data. I don't know. We get it eventually, but to me, I think that's unacceptable. It's data that RLD collected, and now they're saying, oh, actually, you can't get that. Where it's like,
We own it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So would you be in support of supporting AZ GOP in creating their own?
Absolutely. Well, I think what we need to do is we need to create a consistent system that we can all agree on.
Mhm.
And so I think we have to work through what is the best system. And in business, we have projects where we have a terrible old software system and we have to replace it. And we go through an RFP process or we go through an analysis process and then we determine what's the best system and then that's the one we use. So that's what we should be doing here. I think we've come to a place where we just can't keep doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And I think we're all on the same page about that. And so I'm not a fan of the surveys in Campaign Sidekick. I don't think that's the right conversational point. At the same time, when Democrats go to the door, they say, "Hi, Charlie, have you voted yet?" They don't go through the survey, right? They don't say, "Hi, my name is Jan. I'm a fellow Republican. Just wanted to see how you feel about your eggs." And they're, "Oh, I know my eggs cost too much." And, "Oh, I hope that means you're going to vote for Carrie Lake." That's not the conversation they have. Their conversation is very much more pointed. Have you voted yet? How can I help you vote today? Do you have any questions? Do you know where to send your vote, your ballot into? So we need to change our conversations when we're at the door to be a lot more direct as well after we've built some of these relationships. We shouldn't be knocking their door for the first time asking for their ballot.
I'd love to see a different phone banking system too, because we use Campaign Sidekick and phone calls is kind of where I did a lot of work for my campaigns. And it's Campaign Sidekick. It runs unless you do single call, but if you do single call, you're sitting there listening to it ring just to hear. But then it does a majority of calls, which is nice. It does 5 calls at once. But if somebody answers and I'm on the other line, there's no message plays, nothing plays. It's just dead silence. Because I had it was actually one of my friends that was on that list. It was really funny, and he's like, "Why don't you talk for like 2 minutes?" I'm like, "It should have been playing you a recorded message." And he's like, "No." He's like, "It was literally dead silent." He's like, "I'm like, hello, hello," and then I was still on the other line and somebody else was going to vote.
Wow. So my experience, I try before the primary, before people receive their ballots, I was calling, and I got an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just calling off the Excel spreadsheet, and my stats were this: 20% of the numbers were bad, 50% of them were voicemails. And so then I ended up talking to about 25-30% of people. They would answer the phone, and I'd be able to talk to a live person. So then once the ballots went out, and then you want to remove people from the list who've already voted, so you don't call them again. I started using Campaign Sidekick, and I used it for 3 hours. And so I would on 10 calls, I would talk to about 25% of people. It made 325 calls, and I talked to 8 people.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's not, so I got off Campaign Sidekick and I got back on my Excel spreadsheet, because even if I talked to someone who'd already voted, they were so impressed that you called them. They're so thrilled to hear from people that they would tell their friends, "Oh, my friends haven't voted yet, so I'm going to tell my friends to go ahead and vote," and blah, 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 right? So we have to make significant improvements to improve our outcomes.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the numbers. I mean, yeah, you only talk to 8 people and it says 300, and like, candidate is happy. She's like, "Oh, you called 900 people?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that happened."
Right. And these inflated numbers are not helpful to the actual campaign.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, all right, thank you so much. One of the things that we didn't talk about is PC captains. I think PC captains are an incredibly important component of empowering PCs. There are some LDs that do not have PC captains. LD5, they don't have captains. As a captain, I can tell you that you're the person who has the most influence on whether your PCs are going to get out there and actually door knock. So we need to be working with our captains, mentoring our captains, bringing them in quarterly, getting them together with each other so that they have the chance to talk and learn and get best practices. Today we do one captain's training and we send them out. And that's, whether up to they're motivated or not, that's just not enough. I've had the opportunity to go to a number of captains meetings and learned a lot from more experienced captains. We need that for everyone else as well. Yes.
Along the lines of Eric's,
Day one, we are going to send out a message to all of our LD chairs that they, at the next EGC meeting, they need to bring to us a list of all the races that are up in 2024 in their district and potential candidates for each race. And if they don't have someone, that's okay. Say, I don't have someone, we're gonna work on that. But we have to identify and then create a master list so that we know all of the races in all of the districts, all the school board races, all the city council races. And I want the LD chairs to own it for their area so that they take responsibility. They're the ones who know the potential candidates the best, not the county. But then we're gonna work on this as a whole.
So I'm Charlie Schinke, running for treasurer for MCRC. I'm kind of the numbers person, okay? And I've been a treasurer for now 5 different political campaigns in the last 2 election cycles. And when you're a campaign treasurer, you learn a lot of things and you help your candidates do what they can do best. But it's more than just keeping track of money. It's when you're a treasurer, you're also kind of an advisor. You have to do things that when you're a candidate who hasn't run before, like I have. Okay, here's what you have to do next. We need this amount of money to do these kinds of things, and here's what you want to do, and here's where you have to contact, and all this kind of thing. Well, because the MCRC has had a lack of funds in the past, and Jan talked about it earlier this evening. She talked about the fact that we need more funds to be able to have an office, a paid staff, and the things that are needed to run a successful election campaigns. Well, we have plans to do that. And, if you trust us with MCRC leadership, we'll put those things in place. And I'll be more than happy to keep track of, a couple of $1 million, when it comes in, okay? Because the need is there. We can't effectively beat the Democrats without a lot of money. They have it. They got Soros and all these guys from California that the tech people that have money to throw at them. Well, we can come up with those kind of money too. We just have to make sure we're contacting the right people to do it. And Jan's going to do that. So when we talk about the resources that we need, yes, we need a lot of resources. And I mean, campaign after campaign. Personally, I throw more money in every election cycle than I did the cycle before. And the other thing that I want to talk about is being united. Last night at a similar gathering, I talked about 9/11. 9/11, the days afterward, those of us who are old enough to remember what happened after 9/11, it didn't make a difference where people were from, what the color of their skin was, what party they were from. What mattered was we were all Americans and we'd gotten attacked. Well, folks, here we are in 2023 now. We're all Republicans and we've been attacked.
Yeah.
It's time for us to jump into the fight together, all of us. I don't care when all the elections is said and done, we get behind who the leadership is and we make a difference, because that's how we're going to beat the Democrats. We have to have that mentality in order to win. And all the things that we've talked about tonight, those are all things that we can do, we should do, we must do, and we have to do it now. So if we do those things, we'll win. Absolutely. All it takes is determination, and we'll do it. Okay, I'm done.